Good evening and welcome to Face the Nation. I'm Fundo Mabalani, standing in for Clement Manyatela this evening. It's great to have you with us on the SABC. Now on the show tonight, we'll be joined by Benchmarks Foundation on the Stilfontein case of miners who remain underground. Now Benchmarks is of the view that the situation currently unfolding could become a humanitarian crisis. Government, on the other hand, specifically the South African Police Service, has stated emphatically they cannot risk the lives of the men and women in blue or even the SANDF by sending them down Shaft 11. They say they have faith in the strategy that they're employing, saying the men will eventually resurface through their Operation Valumkoti. Well, later on in the show, we'll be joined by KZN Premier Thami Ntuli. He held a media briefing today on the surging food poisoning cases in that province and how they intend to address the problem. He also revealed that their recent investment conference was a resounding success with over 85 billion rand pledged. Clearly, the province is responding to President Ramaphosa's call to turn all corners of the country into a construction site. But the question is, have they gotten a grip on the construction mafia problem, which has driven a lot of investors out of the province? He'll share all of that with us shortly. We'll close off the show with the SANCO Provincial Secretary in KwaZulu-Natal unpacking their decision to cut ties with what they term their arrogant alliance partners, the African National Congress in that province. But first, my comment. Now, the situation unfolding in Stilfontein, where miners remain underground, has laid bare the raw emotions on both sides in relation to illegal mining in the country. And I'm deliberate in my use of the phrase remain underground because as the story develops, it has become apparent that the situation cannot be characterized simplistically. As per reports from community members, there are degrees of capabilities from those underground. There are reportedly some who have the ability to come up to surface but are choosing not to, and fully aware that police are ready to arrest them. There are also those, we understand, who have become too weak to bring themselves up to surface, meaning those ones could be considered to be trapped, needing the assistance to be brought to surface. So the situation is very, very complex. But the Minister and the Presidency, Thabane, has expressed the position of government. This is what she had to say yesterday. Listen in.
You want us to send help to criminals? You want us to send help to criminals, honestly? We're not sending help to criminals. We're going to smoke them out. They will come out. We're not sending help to criminals. Criminals are not to be helped. Criminals are to be persecuted. We didn't send them there. And they didn't go down there for the good benefit or good intentions of the Republic. So we can't help them. Those who want to help them, they must go and take the food down there. They will come out.
All right, now that's the Minister and the Presidency. Now, I hold no one's brief, but as some have stated, there is a possibility that the use of the term persecuted by the Minister could have been a slip of the tongue, where she intended to say prosecuted, because persecution of individuals goes against our Constitution, and ours is a constitutional democracy. Chapter 1 speaks of the supremacy of the Constitution and the rule of law. So she probably meant to say prosecution, because indeed we are all in agreement criminals must be prosecuted. But hopefully the Minister will in due course clarify on that front. But of course, that's not the only aspect of a statement that human rights organizations have raised concerns on. The police have, however, come out to confirm the position of government this afternoon that any rescue operation will not be led by them. Have a listen to Brigadier Athlenda Mathe.
I've indicated numerous times that as a responsible government, we are not going to be allowing our men and women in blue as well as our soldiers to go down there. The mere fact that we have consulted with the mine owner, we have consulted with DMRE, and they are telling us that it is unsafe, it's inhumane to allow people to go down there.
Now, given that position of the police, community members have been leading the rescue operations. This is what one community member had to say.
If government is clear that it's killing them, they must just say it. You understand? Now, they said to us we can't give them food, therefore they don't play any role. You must remember all the casualties that will come here. The truth is they are of a result of valamgoti, not the illegal mining. You must remember that, because if you had closed the supply, it means people are thirsty, people are hungry. Every casualty that is there, it is of a result of valamgoti right now. In fact, I'm not blaming government only for this operation. I'm blaming government for not taking care of this situation prior.
A very interesting view there, but police are realistically not trained to operate underground, granted. There have also been images of illegal miners brandishing weapons all over the internet, so those underground could be heavily armed. But why then have community members been allowed to go underground? Because they're equally not trained and equally vulnerable. Shouldn't active crime scenes be cordoned off, meaning even if a parent arrived to their home on fire, they would not be allowed to enter and rescue any loved one? Police not only arrest but protect us from ourselves, essentially. There's another scenario. What if community members go underground in good faith and then they're held hostage and treated as human shields for negotiations by the very illegal mine workers? Then we have another crisis. It's honestly a very difficult situation all round, which is why my question tonight is, what is your take on the way government is handling the illegal mining situation in Stilfontein? You can send us your WhatsApp voice note right now on 078-459-1897. Remember to tell us your name and surname and where you're sending your voice note from. And please keep it at 30 seconds or send us an X on @face_the_nation_SA. All right, now we start with this story. The nation is divided on whether the human rights of illegal miners who remain underground in the Northwest have been violated by government. The South African Human Rights Commission is currently investigating the strategy used by law enforcement against these illegal miners, particularly the deprivation of food and water supplies in an effort to force them out of the disused mines. Now, Benchmark Foundation says this is now a humanitarian crisis. The foundation's general manager, Busi, joins me in studio to unpack their position. Good evening, Busi. Thank you very much for joining us on Face the Nation.
Good morning, Pundo. Thanks for having us.
No, it's a pleasure to have you with us. So, in the wake of the criticism that we've seen even on social media against those at this point who are imploring government to still protect lives, you have decided that you'll be unapologetic and join the voices of those saying lives must be protected. Talk us through your position that possibly what is unfolding now is a humanitarian crisis.
It definitely is, and we believe that the longer the situation continues, the worse it will be. And first of all, we should always just remember that, yes, it might be an active crime scene, as you mentioned in your opening comment, but at the end of the day, we also are a country that really believes in human rights. It is forefront in our constitution, the right to life. So therefore, we believe that, as the government has said and as the police has said, you cannot threaten people with their lives. There has to be another way to be able to get them out.
But what way could it be right now? Because we've heard the police even addressing the media a bit earlier on today. They said that according to their intel, there are toxic chemicals down there or toxic fumes, but also that mostly these illegal miners would be heavily armed. So they have stated that they're not willing to send the men and women in blue or even the SANDF to such a situation where they might not come out alive. So what could be the ideal strategy that is employed in this instance now, where they themselves are saying they're not trained to operate underground?
No, definitely. This is quite a complex situation, because we should always remember that at the moment it's treated like a criminal issue, but at the core of it, it is both a mining issue and it's as well as an economical issue. So whatever strategy that is employed to get them out is to include all of these facets. We have to negotiate, we have to understand where people are coming from, and we cannot just treat them as only one level of it, because it's a multifaceted, complicated situation.
Granted, it is multifaceted, because many who have even come on the program have been speaking about the need to perhaps look at artisanal mining, that if you've got these large-scale mining or houses that leave most of these mines unrehabilitated, there's still mining, there's still minerals underground. And then you've got these small-scale illegal miners in this instance who go down there, and in most cases they're kingpins who have sent them down there, that we do need to address that is DMRE, but we also need police to enforce the law as well. But realistically now, what would be the ideal strategy that can be employed? Because yes, you're stating that what is happening is a humanitarian crisis, but if the police were saying, we're open to any suggestions, we want to arrest these men, they're underground, they're possibly heavily armed, we do not have the resources nor the training or skills to send our men down there. But the only thing that has been happening is that community members have volunteered. What would, in your view, become the strategy that is then employed if they wanted or said they were open to solutions?
Firstly, I think the situation needs to be de-escalated a bit, because as it is at the moment, it is a very militant, it is aggressive kind of strategy that has been employed, for the fact that people have their food supply has been cut off, their water supply has been cut off. That is totally extreme. I think firstly, people have to have food, people have to have water. And then at that time, then you're able to negotiate with people on a level where they can be able to understand you. But you also have to go back and look at the situation here. We are told that we have about 4,000 miners that are still underground. This is a huge operation.
Something that the SAPS has also disputed, saying that that was possibly exaggerated by the mine workers for some sort of sympathy, to garner sympathy, that probably there are hundreds of them, not necessarily thousands, according to them.
Yeah, it could be, whether it is hundreds or whether it is thousands, but it is still a very huge operation. And we are saying that in its size, the operation, somebody knows something. We have said in our press release that the mine has been labeled as a disused mine, but we have since found out that it is not entirely true. Part of the mine has been used as a water pumping operation, so that means that somebody who owns the mine has an idea of what is going on.
They've said they're in the process, pardon me for interjecting, they've said that they're in the process of selling that part of the mine, which is what we understand at this point, which does also raise a serious concern in that respect, that of course it's not a disused mine, but they've left it unattended, and now we have a situation such as this one. So even if we were going to apportion blame to the mine at this point, it almost feels inconsequential right now, because you've got mine workers, or at least illegal mine workers, that are down, they're underground, they need to be brought to surface. We understand that their capabilities to come to surface vary. There are those that are said to be too weak to climb up, but there are those that are being said to be deliberately staying underground to prolong the inevitable of them being arrested. So again, the question is, if there is a de-escalation, what else must happen to bring them to surface?
We have to first find out what are their needs. As you said, it's a multifaceted, complex problem. We have said in one of our recommendations that we need to see a deliberate collaboration between these departments. Firstly, the Department of Minerals, who are responsible for regulating mining, but we also have to look at the Department of Labor. Some of these miners, which we have found out that some of them are foreign miners, some of them are local miners, and some of them are people who have worked already in the mines. And what we've realized is that when they are working life, when their working cycle in the mine ends, there's a delay in paying out their employee benefits, their pension funds. So what happens is they stay in the communities, and then they go back underground because they don't have any source of income. So the Department of Labor also have to be brought on board, so that we understand exactly how, when people come out, it should not only be the threat of arrest. Yes, what they're doing right now is illegal, but it also has to be addressed in all of these other with all these other departments as well.
And then your views on communities deciding to lead the rescue operations?
Because communities, I mean, they are the host of all of these activities. They are the host communities, and it gets very complex. And what we've seen in various interviews with various community members, that some of the people that are underground come from these very same communities. And some of the communities, as we've seen, are informal settlements. I've said before, some of these miners have lived in these communities. This is their homes, these are families, wives and children. So some of the community members, of course, they have a vested interest. But again, because of the escalated situation, it's a very scary situation for communities as well. So they also want to see this coming to an end.
There was a decision 2 days ago, we heard from the police, to allow certain community members to take food and water to those illegal miners underground. Now, when you say that even just the decision to cut off water and food. They say that they are in fact a caring government because they did send community members to take water and food to them so that they were strong enough to come to surface. What did you make of just that statement by the police?
I don't think that is entirely true, because if you're going to lay out people by cutting off food and water, that is not a fair government. Because how else do you think they're going to come out? Obviously, they're going to be defiant. They're going to stay in there. But what they needed to do is to have a different approach to it. What we're saying is that food and water is a basic human right for them. They have to have it. Even criminals that are in jail still are entitled to have their meals and food. So you cannot just cut off their food supply.
But what of those who say, if there was going to be a consistent supply of the food and water, then none of them would come to surface, which would defeat the whole purpose of the operation?
No, it could be, but then this is where now you need to be really innovative and try and find a multidisciplinary way of dealing with the problem. Because true, they might not come out because obviously they are facing the threat of arrest. And as we've said many times, the situation also involves criminal elements around it. There are syndicates around these operations as well. And some people have been threatened. Some of them do not only go into this because they want to, because they choose to, but because they are coerced. Their families are threatened. So for them coming out is also a risk for their own lives as well. And all of those factors have to be taken into consideration.
Thank you very much, Busi, for joining us this evening. That's Benchmark Foundation's General Manager, Busi Thabane. After the break, we'll be speaking to the police's Brigadier Athlenda Mathe. Do stay with us on Face the Nation. Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. Now, the South African Police Service has confirmed that it has stopped the process of providing food and water to illegal miners still underground at the mine shaft in Stilfontein in the northwest. SAPS spokesperson Brigadier Athlenda Mathe is facing the nation tonight. Good evening, Brigadier. Thank you very much for joining us on Face the Nation. Now, you addressed the media a bit earlier on today, where you were emphatic in saying no police life will be placed at risk through an instruction to send them underground. Just take us through the strategy that is being employed at this point to ensure that all illegal miners are arrested.
Well, a very good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. As the SAPS, we have been running this particular operation since December 2023 across 7 provinces. And we have a mandate to prevent and combat all forms of criminality. And that is exactly what we're doing. We are not going to allow criminality to thrive. We're not going to feed criminality. I think we have illustrated that we are a listening organization as the SAPS, and we are flexible. In the last 2 days, we allowed for food and water to be taken down to these illegal miners so that they can gather the necessary strength, seeing that the situation, according to those that know and that have seen what is happening underground, they were saying some are weak and would need water and food. So we did exactly that, send food down and water and the necessary necessities. But still, we do not have these illegal miners resurfacing. So it does tell us that it's pure refusal. They are refusing to come up, and we have given them ample time as the SAPS. We've given them numerous opportunities. We have tried to communicate numerous times to them that they can resurface and that there is no blockages of entry and exit points. We are merely standing static at all these points to prevent food and water from going down, as well as to prevent more illegal miners from going down. So we are here to stamp the authority of the state, but most importantly, we are here to support our men and women in blue, to say we stand by you, we stand with your actions, because if you see, and I mean past operations, all these illegal mining operations are operating and are being conducted, there's high levels of crime, there's high levels of murder, there's high levels of robbery, robbery and rape. And we have listened to the concerns that are being raised. But I must point out that South Africans are quick to forget. They forget that just about a year ago, we had an incident where 8 women were raped in Krugersdorp. And that was as a result of illegal mining activities. We had a situation also in that area where we have blocked entry and exit points. We picked up about 20 bodies of illegal miners, where these illegal miners were fighting each other over turf war. So we are not going to bow down to criminals. We are not going to negotiate with criminals. We are here to do our job, and our job is to prevent and combat all forms of criminality.
Brigadier, that flexibility you speak of allowing community members to go underground, you have indicated through, or at least you have indicated that through intelligence, you have established that the environment underground is very dangerous. There are toxic fumes. The men are possibly heavily armed. Why then would community members be allowed to lead a rescue operation or even send food down? Are they not equally vulnerable?
Look, this is a very complex and difficult operation for the police because there is a risk for loss of life. We have consulted at length with these community members who are not backing down. They demand to go and fetch their family members themselves or acquaintances themselves. We have taken them through the consequences, the dangers of going underground, but they remain adamant that they know best, they know the terrain best. Most importantly, we have consulted with the owner of the mine. We have also consulted with DMRE, who confirmed that this abandoned and disused mine is very dangerous. There are toxic gases, as you've indicated, that are flowing underground. But secondly, what we need to highlight, in most operations where we are confronted with illegal miners, they are heavily armed. In the past few months, since December 2023, where we've been running these operations, we have seized and confiscated more than 369 high-caliber firearms, more than 10,000 rounds of ammunition, mostly high-caliber firearms from these illegal miners. So it does tell you that it's quite a complex, it's quite a dangerous operation. Obviously, our men and women in blue, as well as the soldiers, are not trained to operate in such terrain. So we also like to clarify that there is no one that is trapped underground. We do have intelligence that it is a strategy to get more food underground so that they can continue to mine the commodity, which is believed to be gold, which is underground. So we did give them ample time as a caring organization to say, okay, let us provide you with the food and water. Let's allow the food and water to go down there on condition that you will come up. And none of them have came up. We actually only had 9. I think it's about 9 that came up since yesterday.
Brigadier, yes, you have moved to address the phrase trapped miners, that there's no one who is trapped. The miners have taken a decision to remain underground to perhaps prolong the inevitable of being arrested. But can you say with certainty that all of them are remaining there willingly? Because reports are that some are actually too weak to come to surface, meaning there are those ones that would need assistance because the mine is too deep and stamina would be needed to come to surface. So can you say this with certainty that all of them that are underground at this point remain so because they have decided to take that decision?
We are investigating allegations that some of them are being kept under their will, as you alluded to earlier, that we are not just working with the ordinary crime. This is a highly organized crime. We are aware. We are also investigating possibilities that they are being kept under their will because I'm told there are these kingpins down there that are keeping them there, that are intimidating them and refusing some to come up. So those are some of the things aspects that we are investigating. We do continue to make a call to all those who are underground to come up, to resurface, because first and foremost, their safety is our concern.
But you're saying they're possibly being kept against their will. So of those that you speak of that could possibly be kept against their will, of course you're investigating. I mean, a call to just say come up then would not be a call that is heeded.
And that is why we are implementing the strategy to say, let us block the food and water so that all of them, they can resurface. We are not going to negotiate with criminals. Our mandate is very clear as the SAPS. We are there to uphold and enforce the law. We are doing exactly that. We cannot shy away from our mandate. It's very clear according to Section 205 of the Constitution. And we are doing exactly that as mandated by the Constitution. And we are aware that the situation is dire. And that is why we are saying, come up, resurface. That's why you have at our operations, the emergency services. We've got the paramedics on standby so that when they resurface, if some of them are weak and so on, they can be attended to. There is one that we had to take to hospital and they're receiving the necessary medical care. So we are pleading with all these illegal minors to say, come up and resurface. We are not more going to negotiate, and we are making it very clear that we are standing by the Constitution. We are here to prevent and combat criminality. And what is happening underground is criminality. Let us not celebrate criminality. Let us not allow criminality to thrive. We need to stamp the authority of the state, and we need media too to support the work of our men and women in blue and our soldiers who are risking their lives on a daily basis to serve and protect the people of this country.
But criminality is criminality, that goes without saying. So even just the insertion of let it not be celebrated, one doesn't assume there could be those that are celebrating it. But there are those, as you've just heard, the guests we had in studio who are talking of possibly an unfolding humanitarian crisis here if you're going to have a number of people who, at least against their will, are underground and or either too weak to come up to surface. But I just want to take you back.
That is exactly why we took food and water down, because we understand that the situation is dire. That's why we made provision for food and water to go down. We have done that, and still nothing is being done.
Not many of them resurfaced. Yes.
Men and women in blue must go down there, soldiers must go down there in a terrain that they're not familiar with, where there is poisonous gases, where there is heavily armed gunmen down there. Are you saying we should send government officials that are already risking their lives on a daily basis to go out there and to go down there and risk their lives?
Of course not. If police are not trained to operate in that terrain, or even the army, then they shouldn't be sent down there, because they're humans and they have family members who would want them alive, of course. But I just want to take you back to your point around community members having made a demand, some of them having demanded to go underground to rescue some of these individuals. I mean, we all may have demands. I just want to know, in such a situation, is this not characterized as an active crime scene where the police would cordon off the space and tell community members to step aside in this respect? Or you can still have individuals that say, I insist, I want to save my loved one, I'm going underground?
Let me give you a picture of us that are on the ground and working on a daily basis with what is currently unfolding. We've got two communities here. You've got one that is in support of these illegal miners, and we have intelligence that they are benefiting, because we are told that bread, meal and so on, it's sold at a very high price underground. You'd buy bread for 15 Rand at a local shop, or 17 Rand. We are told underground is 250. So we are also investigating those community members that are benefiting from these illegal mining operations. You also then have other community members that are supporting the work that we are doing, saying illegal miners have been terrorizing them. They are being robbed on a daily basis. There are rape incidents that are being reported in those communities. There are house robberies. So there are those community members that are saying, we are afraid to come and talk in front of the camera and pledge our support to the police and the SANDF. Like I've indicated, we have gone to lengths to educate and inform, and to take these community members that are risking their lives by going down there to negotiate with these criminals, to take food down there to these criminals. We have taken them through what are the consequences and the dangers. That is why we are making them sign indemnity forms to say the SAP has taken you through all the dangers and the consequences. and you still, despite knowing the dangers, the risk of injury, the risk of loss of life, you are still agreeing and demanding to go down there. That's why we are making each and every one of them to sign.
All right.
The crime scene that you are referring to is underground. Underground is a big crime scene.
Mm-hmm. And then just on those community members, you say that they go underground. They also have attempted to negotiate. When they return to surface, have they told you what has been the response of some of these illegal miners?
Look, we have taken note of what they've told us, but to some extent, we do not believe that they are telling us, some of them, the truth. Because, for instance, to say 4,500 illegal miners are trapped under there, it's far-fetched, it's exacerbated, and it's over-exaggerated, rather. And we have our intelligence that is telling us that, yes, we are not disputing that there are hundreds that are still down there, but to say 4,500. But we are noticing that it is a strategy to get us to send more food and more water so that they can continue down there to mine gold illegally. So that they can continue and find other shafts, other ways to come out of those mines and make those millions that they are apparently making from these illegal mining operations.
Brigadier, thank you very much for your time this evening on Face the Nation. That was Brigadier Athlenda Mathe speaking to us on the situation in Stilfontein. After the break, we speak to KZN Premier Thami Ntuli on how they intend to deal with the surging food poisoning cases. The latest reports, of course, being the death of 3 children in uMzumbe. Do stay with us. All right, let's quickly recap our question. Our question is, what is your take on the way government is handling the illegal mining situation in Stilfontein? Do send us your comments. Welcome back to Face the Nation. Let's recap our question this evening. We're asking, what is your take on the way government is handling the illegal mining situation in Stilfontein? A number of you have already commented on social media. Let's look at some of those tweets. All right, now Vuyo Marku says, good evening, Fundo. I think the minister's comments were inhumane and cruel. I don't condone criminality, but I think those willing to come out must be assisted in any other way that won't risk any life. Then the law can take its course. Lehasa says, Lochani Batuba Ketu, I am so glad how government is handling the illegal mining situation in Stilfontein, because government never sent them there. Our government must fold arms and wait until they resurface and arrest them. Man Not Oppressed says, government has picked the right move, unlike unleash law enforcement officers to them to avoid bloodshed. It's up to Zamazamas to remain underground or come out. The choice is theirs. All right, some very interesting views there from a number of you. Do keep them coming, but we must emphasize that these remain the views of the viewers and not those of the public broadcaster in any way. A number of you have also commented through voice notes. Let's listen to some of those voice notes.
At the Face of the Nation, you're speaking with Rising Ngobeni from Giani at Gandanan Village. To my view, I support the minister what you say. The government didn't tell those people to go to the mine. The government says no one allowed to go to do the illegal mine. They must come back themselves. They must get out. That's all. Thank you.
Good evening, Fundo. I personally think that the government is handling this issue very well. One, they didn't send those people to go down there, so they can't use state resources, use taxpayers' money to go and rescue people that went there for their own benefit. They didn't go there to benefit of this country. So yeah, I think the government is handling this issue quite very well. This is Stanley from Nelspruit.
My name is Marcus Mule. Yes, I think the stance that the police took, it's correct, 100%. They must not take chances of going down to save the criminals. Those are criminals who are under there, because what they did, it's against the law. So whoever is against the law must, of course, face the might of the law. Finish and clear. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Aaron Sotlang. I'm from Kagiso and Krugersdorp. I'm responding to the issue of minors. I think the SAPS are doing the correct thing to force those people to come out of the mine, because people have been complaining about the Zamazamas terrorizing them. Now they say this is unfair. I mean, they have gone down there illegally, so they've been made aware that the steps are being taken there, and now they're still refusing to come out. I think the government is correct. There is nothing wrong they are doing. Those people must not be negotiated with. They must come out of those men. Thank you.
A very contentious and complex issue, this one. But we shift our focus to this story now. KwaZulu-Natal Premier Thami Ntuli has convened an urgent meeting with 54 municipalities to discuss spaza shops. This meeting comes in response to the tragic deaths of at least 23 people across the country since the beginning of October after consuming food from these shops. In KwaZulu-Natal, 3 siblings from the Ndlovu family in uMzumbe on the south coast died from suspected food poisoning after eating a meal purchased at a spaza shop. Premier Ntuli joins us via Teams this evening. Good evening, Premier. Thank you very much for joining us on Face the Nation. Now, you've held a media briefing today where you conveyed a very stern message that the province will not allow illegal operations and spaza shops to jeopardize the lives of the people of KZN. So how exactly are you intending to deal with this crisis?
Good evening, Fundo and the viewers at home, and thank you for having me. Well, as the government of KwaZulu-Natal, we will be not starting tomorrow when we engage the municipalities on the program which we envisage that it will help to mitigate on the situation. We have had operations, not only government of the provincial unity leading or participating, but even municipalities, some municipalities have already started long time before tomorrow when we made actually a call. And tomorrow we have invited them because of the situation which is escalating to a level which we are of the view that is not normal. Hence, we want each and every corner of KwaZulu-Natal to experience operations. You remember that in district and municipalities, there are environmental health practitioners who has a responsibility of actually checking the compliance to the spaza shops and even the shops, because our view as the government is that the problem does not start in the spaza shops, even to the wholesalers that are selling the products. That is where the major problem may be starting, and it's important then that those environmental health practitioners will have to be activated to embark on quite an active program to ensure that operations are actually conducted in the across the province.
Premier, but it's already been established that there are not enough health practitioners or inspectors in this respect, at least from the briefing we heard from the health minister. So they're not enough. So what happens here? Because a greater responsibility is being placed on municipalities as they're expected to adopt the gazetted bylaws. But if there are not enough health inspectors, then where to?
This is why our approach is multi-sectoral. Not only the practitioners or health practitioners, but SAPS, Department of Home Affairs, even community safety and liaising, and other as departments, they also participate. That is why we are bringing in even the leadership of the municipalities. Ourselves, as the members of the Executive Council, we have agreed in the last cabinet that we will be leading programs of visiting the spaza shops and even the wholesalers in order to ensure that the issues of compliance is checked, illicit goods, and even the issue of the expired food. You won't believe that when I participated in an operation at Teguini, we discovered in one of the shops a cigarette with a barcode of a jacket, which showed that that product was not supposed to be here. And it's even now worse when we are losing people irrespective of whatever products or chemicals they are using for whatever purpose in those shops. But what is happening is not right. In particular, some of the owners of these spaza shops, they are undocumented foreign nationals, and on top of that, they are bringing illegal products into those spaza shops, which is putting the life of the children at a risk. Hence, we are saying as government, we cannot sit back. We are making a call to all leaders of the society so that we avoid a situation of the society that will take the law into their hands. It's important that as leaders, we stand up and we demonstrate even to the society that we are handling this. They must not do what is wrong. They must allow the law to take its course. Hence, we will be, after the meeting tomorrow, seeing operations all over, because the meeting for tomorrow with municipalities is not only meant to be a talk show, but it must be concluded with a program that will see a movement in all corners of the province.
Now, Premier, you've also indicated in your briefing that you'll be engaging municipalities to collaborate with the provincial government in an effort to get back spaza shops owned by undocumented foreign nationals to the people of KwaZulu-Natal. Now, if indeed there are citizens who have a desire to operate these spaza shops, that's great, but realistically, people don't have the means to start businesses of late. So would government also be looking to assist them with some sort of a grant to get these spaza shops off the ground?
The cooperation I was talking about, we have the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, ATIA, that has fundings to support the small businesses. We have the Office of the Premier in the province of KwaZulu-Natal with a budget of 100 million to support the youth that are entering, becoming entrepreneurs, or those who are improving their businesses. We have a fund of more than 200 million, which we have initiated as the province of the Office of the Premier to support the women who wants to participate in business. And we will be also therefore also encouraging municipalities that in their local economic development minimal budget, they really seek to also address the issue of those spaza shops, so that we help the real owners of the spaza shops with skills of managing their businesses. And on top of that, where it's possible, we also help financially, so that they are able, in fact, to continue the business without those undocumented foreign nationals, because they are now all over. Go even to the rural communities, you'll find them in townships, you'll find them, and it's even worse in cities. So we are saying we now need to refocus our effort in trying to assist those who are the rightful owners to be able, in fact, to do their business.
Now, you've also touched on the investment conference that the province held. You said the conference was a runaway success, with businesses pledging over 85 billion. In which industries did you see the most pledges?
Well, it was almost 85 billion investment, which was secured during the investment conference in different sectors, the property sector, the automotive sector, even there was even NPCC, which is a cement factory. There are a variety of sectors that, in fact, they had to commit investment, which is going to find expression within a period of 24 months.
So just for clarity,
we expect to see the products.
Pardon me for interjecting there, Premier, but just for clarity, these are pledges at this point, not necessarily direct investment. And I ask this because there are those who are pessimistic in society that would say not all pledges actually are converted into direct investment. We've seen pledges in the tune of billions over the years, but those very investors, in as much as it is their prerogative to decide to actually convert it into a direct investment, have not done so. So this remains 85 billion that has been pledged, not necessarily directly invested. Am I correct?
Some already they've already made their investment. They've started their programs, and some will be starting in the near future. Is the investment which is a reality, which has been confirmed processes, in fact, to start or to kickstart some of the program or projects have been confirmed, is something which is not just a window dressing, but is something that is authentic, which we are going to see it availing or new opportunities to the people of KwaZulu-Natal in particular, the job opportunities.
Now, Premier, clearly this is KZN responding to the President's call to turn the country into a construction site. But do you believe now that you have a grip on the construction mafia situation? Because it has driven a lot of investors out of the province. So this 85 billion would need to find a conducive environment to grow the economy through the massive infrastructure projects.
Well, there are three things, Mfundo. The first one is the issue of crime in its entirety. We are working quite very hard to support the police in a fight against crime, to make a call to the community at large to collaborate by giving information to the police and to support the police in their journey to try and mitigate crime in our province. As a result, in our engagement with the business leaders, they have confirmed that now they have confidence, new confidence that things are shaping up. The police are doing the work as expected. But the other two is the issue of the construction mafia and the issue of the extortionist. I think we are quite aware that that has been given a special attention in the province of KwaZulu-Natal, and we are continuing to engage the different sectors which are involved so that we find a collaboration to those who are sober, because not everyone has a syndrome of the mafia. And the attention that we have given to it, I think, is making us now to begin to move our projects now in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. They are no longer experiencing a huge problem as it was before we had to give it attention.
Premier Ntuli, thank you very much for joining us on Face the Nation this evening. That's KwaZulu-Natal Premier Thami Ntuli speaking to us. Now, still to come on the show, we'll be joined by SANCO in KZN to talk to us about their decision to cut ties with the African National Congress in the province. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us on Face the Nation. The South African National Civic Organization in KwaZulu-Natal has announced that it will be cutting ties with the ANC in the province. Now, this decision was communicated in a letter from SANCO KZN to the ANC's Provincial Secretary, Ndlovu. The letter expressed frustration at the ANC's lack of response to efforts to meet and strengthen political relations with SANCO. The KZN SANCO Secretary, uMzumbe, joins me via Teams this evening. Good evening, Ms. UMzumbe. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Now, this decision, one assumes, was not arrived at easily. The historic ties are known to all. It's SANCO, the ANC, SACP and COSATU. Now in KZN, though, you have decided to sever ties. Talk to us about this decision.
Thank you, and let me welcome all the viewers to this show. Let me just first clarify, my name is uMzumbe. I'm the provincial spokesperson for SANCO in KZN and not the provincial secretary. Firstly, it's also highly important for us to actually remind ourselves that our relationship between the ANC and SANCO is not based on positions, deployments, or factions. It has a historical line, has historical ties based on the civil work that has been done in the 80s coming into the democracy of South Africa. We have history in this country, and civic movements have played a very critical role in also improving quality of lives in our townships. However, at this current conjuncture, unfortunately, we find ourselves in a situation where we, as the the Provincial Executive Committee of KZN, we ended up taking a decision that I think we've had enough is enough, even though it's been a slogan that our grandfathers have been saying, but we've reached a point where we say that we can no longer take the abuse that has been spun by the ANC towards us, and most especially these bullying tactics that have been happening for quite some time. We've been patient enough to take them, but we've reached a decision where we say our strategic and tactical bilateral relationship, if it does not suit those who we are in alliance with, we are no longer going to be playing a role that will actually benefit all of us in the long run. So
can you elaborate on
where
these?
we are.
Pardon me for interjecting there. Can you just elaborate on some of these bullying tactics you speak of, or just the conduct or arrogance that we've seen in your statement was mentioned, that the ANC in KZN has displayed a level of arrogance, the ANC led by Siboniso Duma, of course, and Bheki Mtolo?
Look, we've had an alliance summit in June 13th, I mean a press briefing on June 13th that was between us, SANCO, SACP, and KwaZulu-Natal in KZN, elaborating more about our dissatisfactions and our relationship towards the ANC, because the ANC, in as much as it is the head of the alliance, whatever it does to ensure that our people are liberated, our people understand the program of the ANC does not move alone, because each and every component has a constituency that it represents. And therefore, ever since we've had this leadership of the ANC led by its current provincial secretary, we've tried quite a number of times to make sure that there is stability in the province, and to make sure that even as we head towards elections, we do not see such devastating results. It is unfortunately that whenever we raised our concerns, they were always thrown, out of the box, and we were never.
What are some of these concerns? Because
changers.
Pardon me again for interjecting there. But what are some of these concerns? Because I want us to be very granular and at least give us the examples of instances where you felt that you were ill-treated by the PEC in KZN.
No, very true. In terms of elaborating on these issues, one of the issues that we've elaborating, remember that our alliance summit that took place, I think it was last year, if I'm not mistaken, actually highlighted more on service delivery. One of our major issues were around service delivery issues, where even our deployees will have to account with all the work that they conduct in government, so that wherever we feel that we are dissatisfied with the work or satisfied with the work, we can be able to run the program, because we want a functioning program. That was one of the issues. Other issues were also in relation to how the ANC is challenging many of its problem around corruption. Issues of corruption, issues of neglecting some of our community issues, because as SANCO, our focus, yes, is around community issues. For example, spaza shops, unemployment, etc. So many other things, water, what we also have spoken about, corruption, Mathe, as example. And those were part of the things that we've highlighted our dissatisfaction towards the ANC. Yes, in fact, even including government deployments, because as an alliance component, we have a right to view where we wish to see government moving. However, even the question around deployment becomes so irrelevant in secondary or current in this state, because after elections, the 17% is evident enough that when you speak about deployments to government, they become irrelevant, because that's what the people have decided. And that's what the issue was, because we felt that the leadership of the ANC was moving far away from its constituency and its people based on some of the issues and the plights that we've raised with the ANC.
Is this now the end of the road, or there's still room for perhaps national leadership to engage you on the decision you've taken?
Look, the PEC of SANCO has written a letter of court to our General Secretary, Mike Soko, in which we had requested that he engages his counterpart, who is Mbalula. Lucky enough, Mbalula has demonstrated, the SG of the ANC has demonstrated leadership. And as equally, we hope that has communicated with the ANC in KZN, because today the provincial secretary of the ANC, Comrade Ndlovu, has communicated with our provincial secretary, inviting him very humbly to a secretariat meeting that might take place this weekend with all other alliance secretariats, in order to iron things out, which we don't know yet, because the PEC is still very angered and by the comments that were made by the provincial spokesperson of the ANC, Comrade Mathe and the allegations that he has spun to the public about the PS and all other things that he had alluded to the public, which were to us are lies, because the ANC knows very well the issues that we've laid to the table, the PEC resolutions, not individual, but more than that, undermining even the PEC itself to call us that we are slackies or people that are following our provincial secretary without having people who are actually participating in taking decisions in the PEC. So before us even concluding a very fundamental and stable relationship with the ANC, we all want the provincial spokesperson of the ANC to make a public apology about all the utterances he has made to our PS.
All right, Nomcebo, thank you very much for joining us on Face the Nation this evening. That's KZN spokesperson of SANCO, uMzumbe. All right, and that's where we leave it for this evening. Enjoy your evening further. Good night.